In this final video of this series, I'm going to apply reverb to the mix. Up until this point, I've spent all my efforts gain staging, balancing levels, setting pan positions, applying compression, and in a few spots, applying some EQ. These sorts of treatments, for the most part, don't change the overall tonal characteristics of the various tracks. So, in a way, this application of reverb is the first effect sounding effect I'm going to apply. And that said, I'm still going to go for a natural sounding ambience and probably not apply too much of it. So ultimately, like the rest of the treatments, it should come off as being fairly transparent. You can see on the far right of the mix console, I've set up 3 effects channels, or send channels. I'm going to instantiate Softtube's ZAR1 reverb on each. ZAR1 is Softtube's concept of the perfect true stereo algorithmic reverb, classy and natural, yet lush and vibrant, offering anything from a simple tight room to sophisticated halls to more modulated, sparse, and dreamy reverberations. Those of you familiar with Lexicon products may notice the similarity of its layout to that of the 224. So, I've created 3 send channels. The first is going to be a tight room reverb for the drums. The second is going to be a general reverb for the other instruments. And the final is going to be a longer plate reverb to be used as a special effect. First, the drum reverb. Here, what I'm going for is a room sound that adds a tiny amount of depth to the drum sound and a bunch of width. The ZAR1 is another plugin on which I could easily do an entire series, so for the sake of brevity, I'm going to sift through the presets and then make adjustments to the one I like the most. To audition presets, I'm going to open up the channel editor for the drum group, activate the send, and push the level up a moderate amount, more than I'll end up using, as this allows me to hear the characteristic of each patch. When I find one I like, I'll drop the send level to where I want it and then check it with the rest of the tracks in. Important note, I think it's best to dial in reverb levels using headphones, as reverb is far more apparent on headphones than on speakers. I really like both the modern drum room and the modern drum chamber presets. The drum room added a good amount of width, but ultimately I got similar width from the modern drum chamber and it sounded a bit fuller to me, which could be due to its high cut. I dialed the level back quite a bit to the point where the reverb was barely distinguishable from the ambience from the drum room mics. I found that when reverb is overly apparent on the drums, they end up sounding mushy and losing their punch and attack. That said, if you're specifically going for an affected sound like the drum sound from the 80s, gobs of apparent reverb are required. It's all program material dependent. Next, I'm going to find a general reverb to share among the other tracks. Here, I'm still going for something on the smaller side, but also something a bit darker overall. To find this reverb, I'm going to use Martha's lead vocal track soloed. Again, I'll push the send level up far more than I'll end up keeping it. Once I find one I like, I'll drop the level back down and put in the rest of the tracks.
Oh, what a thing to say. I would shoot the moon. Oh, I would shoot the moon. Oh, what a thing to say. I would shoot the moon. But my gambles never pay. Oh, they will write about years to come, years to come. And it's such a shame if it's oh, what a thing to say. I would shoot the moon. Oh, I would shoot the moon. Oh, what a thing to say. I would shoot the moon, but my gambles never pay. Oh.
Here, Modern Vocal Chamber won me over as soon as I heard it. It was warm and tight, but still gave a nice subtle sense of depth. As with the drums, I dropped the send level way down to the point it was subtly noticeable on headphones. And I should point out that since I'm using these instances of the Czar 1 as a send effect, I have them dialed to 100% wet. Were I applying them as inserts directly to tracks, I would use the mix knob to dial in the desired mix levels. Finally, I'm going to call up one more reverb, this one a big lush plate to be used as a specialty effect for the guitar effects track and the Leslie track.
They will write about years to come, and it's such a shame if it's only a dream.
For this application, I really like the full and highly diffuse sound of the vintage 224 plate. I had to drop the level of the guitar effects track as by sending as much of it to the reverb as I did, the level ended up being a bit louder than I wanted. Now I'm going to go through and send the remaining group tracks to reverbs with the exception of the bass. I almost never apply reverb to the bass as it can really make a mix sound messy.
The moon. Oh, I would shoot the moon. Oh, what a thing. I would shoot the moon. They will write about years to come, and it's such a shame if it's only a dream. One fool's fantasy. One fool's fantasy. Shadows of a They will write about years to come, and it's such a shame if it's only a dream. One fool's fantasy, one fool's fantasy, one fool.
I'm very happy with this result. Though not a glaring affectation, I think adding the reverb gave the mix the depth it was missing. And again, while I solely use Softtube plugins throughout this series, you should be able to apply the same concepts discussed throughout using any plugins, including those that come with your DAW. That said, I have found that there indeed is a difference in quality, more specifically in terms of sound quality, flexibility, and workflow. If you haven't tried Softtube's plugins, you can demo all of them for free, which can be obtained from their website, softtube.com. Finally, I'd like to thank Martha Berner and the Significant Others and Scott Fritz for letting me use this great track in this series. To learn more about Martha Berner and the Significant Others, go to marthaberner.com, and that's marthaberner.com. And to learn more about Scott Studio, check out strandedonaplanet.com. Thanks for watching.